Welcome everyone. My name is Master Thích Quang Trí. Leon has already mentioned my name. I am one of the junior monks here at the Buddhist temple. So today is our second official meditation class. We'll do some hardcore meditation. Last week I spent most of the class just going over the basics. So if you have the first set of papers I gave you, it's pretty much what we went last week. So we didn't do much meditation. So today I'll quickly just go over some of those notes really quick because I do want to mention, or at least bring up the posture, correct sitting posture. And then we'll go into today's actual lesson. So last week, really quick, I just went over what meditation actually is in Buddhist meditation. There are many types of meditation out there, but Buddhist meditation specifically is pretty a disciplined practice. There's lots of meditation practices now in schools and in prisons and in workplaces where they teach you just to be mindful and kind of just, kind of bring yourself back to the present. That is one form of meditation, but in Buddhism it's a much more disciplined practice. It's not like a hobby we can pick up every once in a while. If you do want a true solid practice, then it is something you have to vigorously work on and practice each day. It's not about the quantity of meditation, so it doesn't have to be an hour, 2 hours, or anything like that. It is about the quality of it. So even if you meditate just for 5-10 minutes a day, as long as you're doing it correctly, that's going to benefit you more than if you just meditate for an hour and just not do anything correctly. So if you do, or if you are serious about having meditation practice, again, just at least do it daily. 5-10 minutes is just enough, as long as you're doing your techniques or your methods correctly. And then on your first sheet I gave you, I do have a few, so under the preparing for meditation, there are some points here about, so if you are going to be doing meditation at home, just a few pointers about, cleaning the area, setting up a specific meditation area, specific sitting meditation area. From last week's, yeah, I gave them last week's as well. So it is important to, if you are at home, to try to have a designated spot to sit or lay or do whatever, or however you're meditating. That way you can zen it out as much as you like. You can, decorate it or whatever you need just to kind of put you in that sense of zone. And then I kind of go briefly over how to meditate. So one thing I did want to emphasize last week, and I'll emphasize this week again, that while we're meditating, one of the biggest misconceptions is meditation is about having no thoughts whatsoever, which is incorrect. Sure, it may be like the very end results, years and years down your practice, but this time, it's not about clearing your mind, but it is about observing the mind. So if you do have a thought arise, or if you do get distracted, it's not about not wanting thoughts to come up or being distracted, but it's about acknowledging that a thought or distraction is there. Because if you're meditating, like we'll do meditate on our breath today, if you're doing that exercise and a thought arises, or you get distracted by a sound or noise or a smell, as long as you're able to recognize that and acknowledge that sound or smell is there, that is a huge accomplishment, because you are being mindful of your practice, and that is the point of meditation. It's not to allow yourself to entertain your thoughts or go with your thoughts, right? Because sometimes a thought comes up, maybe you're thinking about food and you have to think about, oh, what I have to go to the grocery store for, what I'm making for dinner, and that kind of just goes down the rail and you're kind of just lost in random thoughts of food, right? But as long as you're able to recognize that that's happening, regardless of how far down the road you've gone, as long as you're able to recognize it, that is a huge accomplishment. So don't be discouraged if you get distracted or if you have multiple thoughts in your own mind. It's okay, as long as you're able to see and recognize and acknowledge that they're there. Once you do, they'll just automatically dissipate on their own, and then you can go back to your meditation object. And then I did also mention, I think it's on the first set, the preliminary meditation exercises you can do. I mentioned on here at the bottom, the last page on the first set, there's a section of prayers and mantras. They're not really prayers per se, but they are acclamations, I guess, positive acclamations that you can say prior to meditation just to kind of help you get there. And then there are some pretty famous yogi or meditative mantras down at the end, at the bottom, Om Mani Padme Hum or Om Ahom. Saying those types of proclamations or mantras a few times before kind of helps you set your mind at ease before meditation. What I also recommend doing is stretching before meditation, because meditation is about taming the mind, not taming the body, but you do want your body to be comfortable, because if you're too tensed up, and then you're going to get very uncomfortable very quickly because you're sitting in one posture for however long you're sitting for. So a few stretches definitely helps if you are going to be sitting for at least 10 minutes or more. It's not be anything crazy, but just a few random stretches, right? And then what I also want to go over really quick is the posture. So sitting meditation posture is very important because you have to be in a position and a posture that's going to be comfortable for the full duration. It's okay to move around, but one important thing is to be mindful that you're moving. So if you do have to adjust yourself or you do have to move, just make a quick mental note that you're moving or you're adjusting or you're lifting or whatever you're doing, right? Because everything is about mindfulness, and you want to be mindful of what you're doing. And you want to do it as you're doing it, right? And you want to do it very slowly. So if you are slouched down and you recognize that and you want to lift up, don't do it very quickly. Just do it slowly and softly, and then recognize that you're lifting yourself up. So under meditation posture, I have 7 points to correct your or to have a posture. The first point is to sit cross-legged in full lotus or semi-lotus or just regular cross-legged, right? I sit semi-lotus, which is just having one foot over your leg. For me, that's the most comfortable, but it's just going to depend on yourself. You're going to have to kind of experiment with how you want to sit, right? What also is important, I've noticed in my own practice, is the higher your butt is off the ground, the better, because you really want to try to have your hips higher than your knees, because if it's too high, then there's too much pressure on the back, and then your legs fall asleep much quicker. So if you're able to kind of create this triangle where your knees or your feet and your butt are all on the ground, it's gonna create a very stable posture and allow full circulation so your feet and legs don't fall asleep as quickly. But it's something you have to want to experiment with. So if you want to add cushions, if you have to sit in a specific manner, just find what's going to be most comfortable for you, because you're going to be sitting for that for the entire duration, hopefully. The second point here is to keep your back straight. So the best way I've been able to have the correct back posture is because if you push out too quickly, then your back is in an unnatural state. So really the best way to get your back as straight as possible is to lift up your hands as high as you can go, and then just stretch your back out, and then just slowly bring your hands down. That posture is going to be the most natural, straight posture you can get, and that's how you want to sit for the duration of your meditation. So you don't want to stick out your chest too much, and you don't want to stick your shoulders in too much. That natural state of just stretching out is going to be the most natural straight up you can get. Third point is to keep your shoulders back. So it's important to keep your shoulders back, aligned with your hips, because if your shoulder, even though your back is straight, if your shoulders are too inward, you're going to naturally start slouching. So as long as your shoulders are back, it's going to stay there. Our back muscle is like Play-Doh, right? If you mold it and you put yourself in the correct position, it's going to stay there until some power comes and forces it down. Like if you step on Play-Doh or move, Play-Doh is going to change, and so our power of changing is going to be our distracting thoughts. So if you get distracted, that's the power that's going to start slouching you down. But as long as you're able to sit there, your muscles are going to relax and they're going to stay in that stable position until you get distracted, which hopefully you won't. Fourth is placing your hands as hand placement. Traditionally, you're going to place the right hand over the left and on your lips, pretty much right where your belly button is, with your fingers, with your two thumbs either very gently touching or barely touching. Or you can simply keep them on your knees. However, if you do keep them on your knees, you don't want to use your hand as support to hold you up. You just want to gently just place them and let your arms just kind of rest and fall into your knees. Don't use that support, don't put too much pressure or anything on your hands, just let it sit there. So you can go back and forth if you need to, or whatever's going to be most comfortable for you, that's perfectly fine. But hand on hand or on your knees is going to be your best options. Fifth is that your neck should be held tall while lightly tilting your head down at about a 45-degree angle. So again, you want to keep your neck straight, the same straightness as when you raise your hands, and then just slightly bring your head downward at about 45-degree angle or so. And then with that, you're going to keep your eyes gently semi-closed. So you don't want your eyes completely closed because you can have a tendency to fall asleep, like I kind of do sometimes. So keep them slightly open, just barely open enough where you can like stick a grain of rice in between, right? And you don't want them wide open because that way otherwise you're going to get distracted by if something's moving or by the light. So just slightly semi-closed is going to be the best way to keep your concentration focused. And then the last point of the posture is your mouth and tongue. So traditionally, most meditation methods, you would rest your tongue on the roof of your mouth, right between the gums and the teeth. That also helps keeping the saliva back so you're not constantly swallowing. So that does help, and for me at least, I've noticed that if you just put it there, it's gonna stay there, which is weird, I think, for a tongue muscle, but I don't know. But same thing with your back. If you put it in that position, it's gonna stay there until you move it. So that's the 7-point posture. So again, it kind of starts from your bottom up, right? You're working on your legs, then your back, your shoulders, your hands, your head, your eyes, and your mouth. So kind of work that every time you do a sitting. If you're on a chair, of course you're going to be cross-legged, but you do want your feet come flat on the ground. And you would want to try to sit on a chair that's high enough where your knees are not bent, or not, like, when you're sitting on a short chair, your knees are kind of higher up. But you do want to sit on a chair where, like, she's on a perfect level right there because she has a cushion on her feet, so it's perfect. But you want to try to keep your feet completely flat and your thighs completely flat. And again, you can use your hands on your palms or on your knees, whichever is going to be most comfortable. So that's the posture. What I did last week, and what I'll probably do this week, because I have a few new people, is, hopefully I can get to my meditation. If we have time for meditation, I'm trying to talk fast because I talk a lot, so I'm trying to get it over with. But what I did last week is I used my handy dandy meditation stick over here. That once we start meditation, probably halfway through or so, I'll get up and walk around to check your posture. Hopefully you've been mindful enough to correct yourself, but if not, I'm going to use a stick to gently tap your back if you're slouching, or tap your shoulders if your shoulders are too inward, right? So if I tap your back, just strain your back, tap your shoulders, broaden your shoulders out. That's going to help you, hopefully help you to remind yourself to stay focused on your posture, because you do want your lungs expanded, because if you're slouching and you're putting too much pressure on your lungs, you won't be able to breathe deeply and correctly, and blood flow is not going to be circulating correctly either. So I'll do that. Hopefully, it shouldn't take too much longer for me to go over our 2 methods today. On meditation and breath, I've included 4 methods, but we're only going to do 2 today, and then we'll do 2 on the next class. So if we have time, I wanted to have at least 30 minutes of meditation per class, but it just depends on the method that we're going over. So if we have time, What I will do is we will probably do sitting meditation for about 20-ish minutes or so. And then halfway through that, we'll get up and do a few rounds of walking meditation just to kind of, get our blood flowing, get our energies back up. And we'll sit back down for the second half of sitting meditation. So if we do that, I would recommend you we try the first method that we're going to learn today for the first set, for the first half of the meditation, and the second method for the second half. I've included many methods throughout this, because throughout the course we're going to go over, we're going to go over sitting meditation, walking meditation, mindfulness meditation, visualization, and chanting. So there's different forms of meditation out there, because it's important for you to be able to find what's going to work for you best. Because if you are going to be a serious practitioner of meditation, you have to know at least a few different methods to know which one's going to work for you best. Because if you just try one and it doesn't work for you, then you're going to end up probably giving up, right? But if you know different methods, you'll find out what's going to work for you best. And you can continue using that practice until you can either drop it completely or find something that's probably more advanced. So the first method here is the most traditional form of breathing meditation, which is counting. So I won't read this word for word, but counting is simply just counting 1 to 10. So for every in and out breath, you're counting 1. So what I do is when I breathe in, I'm counting 1. I breathe out, I count 1 again. Breathe in, count 2, breathe out, count 2, and kind of continue that way until you reach 10, and then you start back over. If for any reason in the middle of that you get distracted or you lose count, you simply just go back to 1 and focus on your breathing. Since you're counting, it's important to try to not control your breath. That is a situation I hear many people feedback they hear from many meditators when they're concentrating the breath is they're trying to control the breath, and it's hard for them to keep up the counting, or they get distracted. So you're not controlling your breath at all. The easiest way to avoid that is not to count before you breathe. So as you're breathing is when you want to count. So you're breathing, then count 1. You breathe out, you count 1. Breathe in, like in the middle of the breath, you want to count, not before or at the beginning, because that way it may feel like you're actually controlling the breath, and you don't want to do that. So again, just going 1 to 10. You don't want to go more than that. If you want to go to more than 10, definitely feel free to. But 10 is usually just easy enough, at least to start out with. And then the second method is my favorite method, because it's what works for me the best. And I've kind of developed this in my own way. So the second method is also counting, but it's a little bit more tedious, I think. For the second one, I specifically use the sound of the clock. So hopefully when I stop talking, everyone can hear the clock ticking. I didn't show on that fan because I wanted to make sure that it's there. Okay, I can hear it. Everyone can hear it? Okay, good. Because we're going to use this sound to help us. It's not necessary, but it's very helpful. So with the second method, you are counting, again, 1 to 10, but you're doing it in kind of in a sequence. So I try to find the correct words to explain this type of counting, because I know there's a mathematical term for it, but I just could not think of it for the life of me. I've been out of school for 10 years, so I couldn't remember it. And I couldn't Google it, and Google's like, what are you talking about? You're making no sense. So I was like, forget it. I'm gonna try to just write it out. So you see my little kind of lopsided pyramid there. So basically, the concept is for every tick of the clock, you're counting. So tick, tick, I'm going to use the words tick. So tick, you count 1, tick, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for every tick, you're kind of counting, and you're starting over, and you're adding the second digit of the number. So you do that up until 10, and then you do the same thing backwards from 10 to 1. So hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay. For me, that's really, I've been meditating for 16 years at least. And of all the different methods and types of meditation, This one has worked the best for me because it's a little tedious and it's easy to get distracted with the lose count, especially when you're having to restart over. You're going to wonder, oh, where did I leave off? But the same with the first method. If you do lose count or you're distracted, just start over. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing that you've acknowledged it and you recognize that you've gotten distracted or a thought arose or whatever, because that acknowledgement is exactly what you're trying to do in meditation, right? It's not, don't get discouraged if you get distracted. It's an accomplishment if you at least recognize that a thought has arisen or you're almost entertaining a thought, right? So we will use that method for the second half. So luckily we have some time. So does anyone have any questions about the first or second method? Okay. So we will go ahead and stretch out a little bit and get our posture, and then I'll hit the bell, and then we'll meditate for about 10 minutes. So we'll meditate 10 minutes on the first method or the second method, whatever you want to start with, and then during the middle of that, I'll get up and walk around to try to correct any postures if needed, and then I'll stretch the bell again, and then we'll get up and do probably 3 circles around the room, just kind of get our blood flowing, and we'll sit back down and finish up our meditation. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that once I do strike the bell to either stand up or end the meditation, open your eyes slowly, start moving slowly. You don't want to abruptly just start getting up and being all fanatic, right? Just slowly open up your eyes, maybe tilt your head around, stretch your legs out, stretch your arms out, but do things slowly, right? And if you are having to try to correct your posture or anything, again, do that slowly and just make the mental note that you're lifting or you're moving or whatever you want to call it, just so you're being mindful of what you're doing and then you're breathing. As I was meditating, I realized that the second method I have on here isn't really on the breath like it should be. It's on the clock ticking, but you can use it for your breaths instead. The only reason I don't have that on there is because as you meditate, your breathing becomes more and more shallow to the point where you may feel like you're not breathing at all. And so if you do the counting method, then it becomes pretty long. Like you can be breathing in 1, 2, 3, it just takes longer. But you can do that as well, so whatever works best for you. Again, this is what's going to be working best for you, because you're going to have to use something that's going to be useful. Did everyone try both methods? Do you feel like one worked better than the other?
It's the first time I've used the counting up and then counting back down. I like it, doing the...
And that one I really enjoyed because there's a fail-safe to it. So what I start doing is count, 1, 2, 3, where I should start over 1, 2, 3, 4, but then I just continue going on without restarting. So when that happens, I'm like, oh, I lost track. Now let me start all over again. So there's kind of like its own fail-safe in there. As long as you're able to recognize that you've kind of counted. I've literally completed up into like the 50s at one point when I was supposed to stop at like 20. I'm like, wow, I was distracted for like 50 seconds there. But that's the good part about it is if you have a set number and you surpass it, or you haven't restarted, then you've kind of got lost and you have to start over again. So that's one thing I really enjoy about that. I typically do 30, because if I do up to 30 and back, that's about 15 minutes. So that's how I keep track of how long I've meditated for. So if I counted correctly, 30 going up and down is about 15 minutes or so, a little bit under 15 minutes. So if you have a set amount of time, then just do some dividing and figure out how long you want to meditate for, and just use that number to count. So hopefully that worked. I know I didn't really elaborate much on the walking parts, as I probably should have, but I'll probably touch base on that next time. But I really didn't want us to focus too much on the walking part. I really just wanted to use it just to kind of get us moving a little bit and get our blood circulating. There'll be a point where we don't do the walking part and we'll just sit for the duration of the time. So next time, next class I think is in 2 weeks. So FYI, if you haven't seen it on the website or Facebook or whatever, or wherever you saw this class at, with the exception of August, every other month is going to be on the 2nd and 4th Saturday is when this class will take place. So the next time we will meet will be on the 14th. The 14th and the 28th of September. So the 14th will cover the remaining 2 methods, one of which is probably one of the oldest methods. It's from the Theravada Buddhist tradition, still practices that part. That's one that's a direct teaching from the Buddha himself. And it's used in the Theravada tradition because it is a method where we can achieve great realizations and even a glimpse of enlightenment as well. So I've included it in here because it's pretty basic for the most part. It's difficult to kind of maintain, but it is something that's doable, so I've included it as well. And then after that, I think we are doing walking meditation after the breathing part. So the next class we'll do the other 2 methods, and the last class in September, we'll kind of do a quick overview of all of them, really quick, and then we'll have a full 30-minute meditation session. And then October is when we'll start with walking meditation, and we'll do like full-on walking meditation. With the walking meditation, I think I have a few methods as well, but we'll be able to cover the talking part with probably 15 minutes of meditation the first time we talk about walking, and then the second class we'll do a quick recap and then have a full 30 minutes of walking meditation.
Maybe it'll eventually be cool enough to walk outside, which is really nice to do slow walking meditation outside.
It's very helpful. Traditionally for walking meditation, you want to have a long straight path and just go back and forth. We do circular or circumambulation meditation in temples when you're chanting, and once we get to the chanting part, we'll do that. But traditionally, if you're able to, if you have a long path whether it's in a garden or a park, it's more ideal to just kind of go back and forth. Otherwise, if you can just do it inside, up and down the hall or around your room is perfectly fine. The location's not the important part. It's just what you're doing. How you're meditating is the important part, obviously. So we'll cover that. It's a very, very helpful, type of meditation, because it's something you can pretty much do all the time, every time, right? You're walking to your car, when you go to work, going to school, whatever you do, every opportunity is an opportunity for meditation, whether you're sitting or standing or walking. Point is just to be mindful that you're doing it. So I'm usually a few minutes late to work because, one, I sit in my car and I finish listening to a radio show. And then two is because I walk pretty slowly up into my office. My nonna here works with me, so she typically, I almost always park right next to her, and she usually goes before I do, but by the time she's sat, she's logged in, she's already working, it's probably the time I get there because I'm just walking way too slow. But that's just showing you that any opportunity is a chance for you to do walking meditation. And a really quick walking is just being mindful of your steps. So instead of like sitting where you're mindful on either breath or whatever meditation option you're using, when you're meditating, you're concentrating on your feet. So very basically, you can just say right, left, or lifting, falling, whatever you want to use, whatever terms you want to use, because you're just concentrating on your steps. You're concentrating on the sensations of the feet. You're concentrating on how it's being moved, where it's moving, how are you moving it. So instead of using your breath, you're using your feet as your meditation object. So when I walk around here, when we're doing a quick one, I'm just saying right, left. Kind of like an army, right, left, right. So kind of the same thing. But I'll stop there. Any questions about anything you've heard, experienced, any experiences you want to share, or flashes of knowledge, great knowledge, which will eventually, hopefully, we'll all get to one day.
I'll just make a note that one thing I remembered is when we were doing the second method, that I was concentrating on the numbers, but then at some point I was doing the numbers and then I realized I was also observing my breath. So it just shows you that once you settle in and your awareness is there, it's not, you start with an anchor object, but the idea is that soon your awareness really is just everything that's right here. So that's your breath, that's the numbers, it's everything.
Right. And with the second method, if I close my eyes, you can visualize the numbers as well. It'll help you stay concentrated. But of course, if you're feeling like you're falling asleep or you're about to fall asleep, then close your eyes is probably not the best idea to do. But it is something that's helpful. So when we get to the visualization part, meditation, a couple months, that's probably the most difficult method we'll go over. There's many methods out there and way more advanced stuff, but for this series, the visualization part is probably going to be the most difficult, because in essence it really is. One, because if you're closing your eyes to visualize, then there's a really high chance you're going to fall asleep. So I encourage drinking some coffee or an energy drink or something that's going to keep you awake. And then two, visualization, a static object is hard to keep for a good amount of time, right? You can probably think of something in your head for a few seconds and the image disappears. The only time where you're constantly imaging is if you're, going through like a story or something, right? There's always moving objects, but we will use, I'll figure out what we're gonna use, because one of the methods I tell people is using a candle flame, but we're not gonna light candles in here. So we'll figure something else out to use to kind of concentrate on and then try to visualize it. I'll probably just end up using images of loved ones. So your parents, your husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, use that image because hopefully you're pretty familiar with what they look like, so you're able to keep it for a long period of time.
Or a flower.
Or a flower, exactly. I try to use a growing flower, so imagine the seed being planted and then watch it grow and then just stick with the image. That's a very helpful one as well. Okay, anything else? No? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It was a pleasure being with y'all today.
Thank you.